Yeah, so just rewinding the clock, that was 2009 when I made that move from Genentech to Five Prime Therapeutics. But just for context, at that point, I'd been at Genentech for 8 years. I was head of oncology business development. We were a very active team. We did a lot of deal making and working closely with the R&D folks. We had this whole oncology roadmap of mechanisms and pathways and specific targets we wanted to hit. And if we didn't have something internally, we would look externally and we would go get those and find the best ones that we could. And so it was a very systematic, methodical approach to build out the pipeline. And I think it's still paying dividends today for Genentech and now Roche. So while I was there, I worked on a lot of deals, and my team and I closed some important transactions, bringing in Venclexta, for instance, a BCL2 antagonist from what was then Abbott, now AbbVie, of course. But they were not an oncology player at that time, and were actually considering just canceling their oncology programs, as I understand it. But I'd worked on a prior deal with Abbott, whereby they took a license to some intellectual property pertaining to the co-expression of antibody chains in a system to produce antibodies. So they needed a license for that from Genentech. And so I had negotiated that licensing deal, which pertained to Humira, among other things. Mm. And so I knew it was a royalty burden on Humira and directly impacting their profitability, operating margins. So I had this idea because BCL2 was on that roadmap that we had developed at Genentech, and we wanted to hit it. And it was a very difficult target to drug at that time with available technology. And we'd seen this program at Abbott. Actually, I was walking through the poster session of a conference with one of our protein chemists, and he and I went specifically to check out their poster, which was then preclinical stage. And they had used this high throughput NMR-based screening technology to find agents that would dock in the shallow pocket of BCL2, which is important in a number of cancer types, particularly hematologic malignancies. And he was impressed with the quality of the work and what they'd achieved and the molecules that they created from that effort, which are still not in the clinic. Mm-hmm. And I said, I think I can get this for us. And he said, why would they give it up? I said, well, I've got an angle. So that was the genesis to approach Abbott with this idea of, what if we give you some royalty relief on Humira, and in exchange, you partner with us on BCL2? So very sort of constructive offer, because it would immediately help their profitability, which was important to them, on what would become a huge brand. And we knew even then Humira had enormous commercial potential because of its applicability to a wide range of autoimmune disease states. So they quickly responded that that was of interest, and they'd not been thinking about that, and we're trying to find a partner for this program. So that kicked us to the top. So that was one of the things I did at Genentech. Proud of that. And now it's the drug Venclexta, which is used for, again, several hematologic malignancies. I also did deals to bring in a MEK inhibitor called Cotelic, a hedgehog antagonist called Araveg, and lots of antibody drug conjugate and antibody and small molecule programs. So to get back to your question, why would I leave that?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I mean, it sounds like you were at stride. You know what I mean?
I was,
yeah.
and I loved it. You know, I got to do a lot of deal making. I worked with brilliant people, and I got to work with a really top flight executive team led by Art Levinson, and Sue Hellman was there, Richard Scheller, David Eversman, others, just brilliant people. So seeing them in action was really helpful, and I think made an impression on me about a quality way to run an organization and to make decisions and to execute on a strategic plan. Mm-hmm. So I have, only good memories and good things to say about that. It wasn't that I was looking to leave because I was unhappy. To the contrary, I was quite happy and had done a lot of really interesting things there and had a fantastic team and opportunity still. But in 2009, the acquisition of Genentech by Roche closed, and I stayed for about 6 months after that. But I was at a point in my career where I thought I can take a little more risk. And I really wanted to build a company or help build a company and grow a company, and ideally be involved in taking it public or some sort of liquidity event, um, just to learn how that process works. And because I had this sort of business development acumen, I decided to set up a screen for the type of company that I would want to go to if I were to leave Genentech, which I wasn't dying to do, but if I found the right thing that would offer those opportunities, then I would do it. And
Yeah.
so my screen at the time was essentially doesn't have a scientific platform that's differentiated and may lead to better medicines, uh, preferably with an emphasis on biologics and antibodies, because I like the profile of those agents for their selectivity and tolerability and uh, ability to manufacture, et cetera. Ideally in the Bay Area, because my family was there, and led by and staffed by really good people.
Hmm.
And when I applied that lens, there weren't many companies that popped up, but one was Five Prime Therapeutics. And Five Prime, I knew was looking or didn't have a head of business development at the time because I knew the former VP of business development and she'd left several months prior. So I just cold called Five Prime and I emailed the chairman and the CEO. So uh, reached out to Rusty Williams and Julia Gregory and um, made this pitch that I knew they didn't have a head of business development and I would be interested in talking with them if they would like to talk with me.
Hmm.
And indeed they did. So that led to an interview and um, I hit it off with the team there. And Rusty was the founder, just a brilliant, energetic guy who had this concept to create this screening platform using expressed proteins and functional versions of expressed proteins that could then be screened in various assays, either in vitro or in animal models of disease, et cetera. And it was yielding some very interesting targets and therapeutic candidates. But this is 2009, so not a good time in the economy, certainly not a good time to go to small cap or privately held biotech. The
Yeah.
financing market was in shambles for them because of the aftermath of the housing crisis and the economic downturn of 2008 and 09. So I took a big risk in going there to a company that had maybe a year of cash and
Yeah.
was privately held. And so, there's no guarantee that more money was coming in the door unless we did things. And so I had a very clear mandate to do deals to finance the company, which is a lot of pressure, but a lot of focus as well. So, um, I think I responded to that, and we did a number of deals that brought in capital for research funding, gave us potential to participate downstream and in any products that advance to the clinic into commercialization. Um, and several of these were done over the years, leveraging the platform technology. And so that allowed us to also advance our own pipeline, which we did at the time. And as that pipeline advanced and the market recovered, we went public in 2013. And along the way, I was promoted to chief business officer, and then ultimately first chief operating officer, and then ultimately CEO. But we went public, which was something I wanted to do, and I was out on the road show with the team to do that. Uh, that was a great experience. We raised capital to fund our clinical programs. And shortly after we went public, one of our scientists spotted this antibody, again at a conference, to a target that we thought was very interesting called fibroblast growth factor receptor 2B, or FGFR2B. And this is something that gets upregulated in various cancer types like gastric cancer, stomach cancer, but also esophageal, pancreatic, other tumor types. It comes up and gets overexpressed, much like HER2, for instance, in the breast
Hmm.
cancer space. And so he'd seen this poster and saw that this small company in the Bay Area called Galaxy had created a very specific antibody to this isoform of the FGF receptor 2, the 2B isoform that gets upregulated in those cancers and other cancers as well. So I knew we could get it and we could afford to get it. I didn't know if we uh, would win because Biopharma was interested in this program as well, but I said, let's try to get this. And so I approached Galaxy, and um, they liked the team at Five Prime. They liked our development plan. They liked how seriously we were going to take this product and prioritize it within our pipeline. And in the end, we beat a large pharma bidder. I think because of that demonstration of commitment, they actually felt more confidence that this little team was going to advance the program
Hmm.
than had they given it to that particular company. And that turned out to be true. We did advance the program. And when I became CEO, I made it the number one priority, which was a difficult thing to do because it meant cutting back in other areas and other programs.
Yeah.
But it was the right thing to do because I knew even in phase one, it was very active relative to what had been seen in the past in late line treatment of gastric cancer, which typically doesn't respond to much of anything. And it's actually I think, still the number three killer globally among the cancers. Uh, this had single agent activity in late line disease, so patients who'd failed lots of other regimens. So I knew it was active in phase one. And we advanced it into late stage development based on that early signal and went into a large randomized phase three study. And that was blinded. So it was chemotherapy versus chemotherapy plus this antibody. Um, And ultimately, that's what read out very positively and caused Amgen to buy the program. But along the way, I was frequently asked to kill it, to stop this program. Why are we spending on this program? Let's do other things. Why do we care about gastric cancer? And I would say, well, it's not just gastric cancer, and gastric cancer is a major worldwide program or problem. Uh, and I was following the science, and that's been something I've done, or following the data, something I've done throughout my career.
Hmm.
And I would encourage anybody coming into the field to apply that discipline. Don't be swayed by seat of the pants judgment calls.
Yeah.
Follow the information that's actually coming out of the lab or out of the clinic, ideally from patient data, and use it.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what we did. And so I kept it alive, even though I was repeatedly encouraged to stop it because I knew it was working, and others on my team did as well.
Who
So,
was just out of curiosity, and I don't expect you to name
yeah.
name names, Aaron, but where was the pressure coming from to kill it?
Yeah, I won't name names, but people who I would say didn't appreciate the the potential in gastric cancer and other tumor types,
Mm.
uh, sort of bringing a bias that because it's not a huge problem in the United States, then it shouldn't be our top emphasis. And
Yeah.
gastric cancer was sort of the top of that mountain. It's I'm sure going to work in other tumor types. That target gets overexpressed in several other tumor types. That was, I would say, one of the sources of objection, and then just the investment that we were having to make. But when you want to develop something and prove that it's working, you have to invest, and you have to
Hmm.
do a large enough study that will enable that proof conclusively. And so, I think people sometimes get fearful when they see the investment that has to be made, but that's what we're here to do, is to make good investments that hopefully generate a lot of return, both clinical and financial,
Hmm.
for the shareholders. So clinical for the patients and the caregivers, and for the shareholders, they want a return on their investment. And the only way to get a return on the investment is to make good decisions and hopefully create a medicine that does something that something else can't, because you'll have a lot of adoption in the marketplace. You'll have power to get it used in regimens that can help patients. So, when I've seen people objecting to things, it's usually rooted in fear. And I would say I'm pretty fearless.
Hmm.
So I think that was the problem. Uh, but we kept it alive, and actually the company decided, which was a recommendation I made even after I left, unblind it early, convert it to a phase two and unblind it early, because it looked like it was taking a long time to read out, meaning the drug was probably active. And that was done. And that's what, really compelled Amgen to bid on Five Prime, and good for them, because I think they're going to have an excellent product in their hands, and it will extend lives for a lot of people with hopefully several types of cancer, but certainly gastric.
Yeah. It's I'm trying to put together this fearlessness. I mean, you're not you're confident fearless yet humble. Would you say? I mean, and I mean that in a very respectful way. Like you're a you have a an air of humility about you, but it is a confident and fearless humility. Would you say that that is not to blow too much sunshine here, but would you say that that's a result of your resolve to follow the data, not necessarily the prevailing winds, trends? Is that where that confidence comes from? I mean, you've exercised it, you built
I
those
think so.
muscles.
Yeah. Again, I had some really great models, mentors along the way over the years to sort of study and
Mm.
learn from. So, you know, I saw that in people I worked with at Genentech, at Five Prime, even at Amgen years before that. When you see somebody who knows how to make a decision, knows what they need to enable that decision, they're much more relaxed, but very purposeful.
Hmm.
And so I think that was imprinted on me to a degree. And uh, I certainly know my weaknesses and the areas that I'm not the expert in, but I think I am good at integrating and assimilating and synthesizing information to make a decision with my team
Yeah.
or sometimes on my own. But uh, a lot of it is knowing how to do that. Once you learn how to do that, and you see that actually, yeah, I did make a good decision there. You learn from it, or I didn't make a good decision there. You learn from that.
Hmm.
So some of it is the wisdom of years of experience that you're probably seeing. And I also have a fantastic team here at Alos, and I did it at Five Prime and the Genentech business development team I was leading as well. So, I put a lot of emphasis on recruiting really good people. That helps things as well,
Yeah.
obviously.